Once upon a time, a girl named Holly moved to a town called HollyWould. She had many adventures, and soon she began to write about them on a Substack called HollyWould, because she would. Then, she wondered what her friends and acquaintances were up to and how they lived their lives in this strange land, so she started this very podcast in order to find out. And now, you can too. Welcome to HollyWould.
I just wanna get effed up and dance. This is our only chance. Happiness is fleeting. This feeling's way too good to last. Get effed up and dance.
Hello, welcome. This is the HollyWould Podcast. Our guest today is Adela Lavine.
Yes.
I'm saying that right.
You said it perfect. Yeah.
Great. I love your name. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everyone keeps asking how I found you. And it's my brother and his partner are huge fans of yours.
What?
Yes. So they told me about you a while ago.
Okay.
And I guess you gave my brother a reading on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
And he
That's
was
possible.
like,
yeah.
It was so accurate. And I guess they watch your YouTube and they have just been following you and they're a big fan. So I followed you then on Instagram and then you followed me back. And I was like so excited.
Oh, yeah.
So thanks for following me back.
Yeah, well, thanks for following me and tell your brother thank you.
I will.
It's funny, you just kind of do, I have all these elements. You know, I'm like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, podcast, I have a book, and I just never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been
how people are finding you.
where people
yeah
find me. So
I have
it's
the
always
same thing going on.
Yeah.
I'm like all over the place.
Right. Exactly.
So your story is really interesting too. You grew up in LA, right?
Yes.
Did you grow up in Hollywood or where?
I did not grow up in Hollywood, but I came to Hollywood lots of times, especially, clubbing.
Yeah. And
it's a very different life. Like, I didn't realize how weird I grew up until I moved out for a while and people live like normal, like have normal 20-something-year-old age, or when you're 17, you're not going to a club in Hollywood. You're going to the ice cream social or something in the Midwest. And I was like, oh, I grew up kind of weird, I think.
Going to the clubs in Hollywood.
Yeah, me and my friends going to the clubs in Hollywood like 17.
I think I forgot to say you are an intuitive and a medium. Do you call yourself a psychic?
I don't. I'm getting comfortable again with it, but back when I started this, because I've been doing this for 22 years professionally, it was a very volatile word. People are pitching you on Venice Beach, throwing cards in.
Yeah.
So I stayed away from it and called myself an intuitive and a medium, and it kind of stuck. And the weird thing is, it's like anything, once you've been doing something for so long, you start to see like how the world changes. And now I see like that's a common thing now.
Yeah.
That people are, I'm an intuitive tarot reader. I'm like, oh, okay. Nobody knew what that was back then. But yeah. So yeah.
It's becoming more like forefront of culture, more socially accepted, and more, there's more of an awareness of the reality of these things.
Yeah. It's very trendy.
Yeah.
Right now.
Not just in LA, not just in Hollywood.
No, it's pretty much, it's a different generation. They're much more open to it. But don't make any mistake. I'm still fringe. We're still fringe people.
Yeah.
We're still the weirdos. Yeah.
And good. It's better. It's more fun to be a weirdo.
Yeah.
So Adela also has a podcast. And it's fantastic. It's called The House Medium. And you do a lot of work with real estate, which is super interesting. And I want to get further into that. But I heard on one episode a little bit of your origin story, which is very like Disney, as you said. You lost your mother when you were 10 days old. Mm-hmm. So
I have a very strange story. My podcast did start off real estate, but it is definitely now paranormal.
Okay.
And people are kind of like veered away from
Yeah.
that.
They're right. They
They're
want the
like,
crazy
Who
shit.
cares about that? Yeah, so it's very paranormal now. People send in their stories, and I read them and put sound effects like old school style, and then I have them on and tell them what I see, which a lot of times it's not so crazy, like it's their aunt or something, but a lot of times it is like not great. But yeah, my story is a lot of writers here in LA always tell me I have the hero story. You know, my mom died when I was 10 days old, and my aunt, her sister, raised me with my uncle. And my aunt, you know, and my mother were sisters. They're Jewish, and so I'm half Jewish, half Mexican, but I didn't know my biological father, and my uncle's African American. So I was raised in a very multicultural family, grew up celebrating Kwanzaa when nobody ever heard of it.
Yeah.
It's all the things. So everything was different, but they were very, very intellectuals, extremely academic. So this is, everyone always asks me, is this from your family? I'm like, no, not even close. Not even close. My uncle was a sociology professor. My brother's a psychology professor and a psychologist. They all have PhDs and,
Interesting.
you know, master degrees. And I'm like, hi. So, yeah.
What
didn't come
about
from them.
your father? Where was...
My real father? I don't like to call him my real father because I solely always connected to my uncle. Like if there's anyone I loved
That's
more,
your dad.
to me. But even out of my biological family, he is the most, I feel the most connected to him, or I did. So my aunt passed when I was 18. She got sick with leukemia when I was 16. I always had dreams that she was gonna die early.
Wow.
Since the time I was little, I would have a reoccurring dream over and over. And logically, I thought it made sense because my real mother died. So maybe I have this fear of her dying. But my uncle was a dialysis patient. He was the first dialysis patient in Los Angeles. And he's actually on all the big medical books and has been studied. So they really didn't know how long he'd live. And he lived 35 years. So technically, he was always the one people thought would die young.
Wow.
But I just never saw that.
Wow.
So she got sick when I was 16, and I kind of knew that was what I saw, the premonitions that I saw. I didn't know the word premonition at the time. I just was like, yeah, this is what I've seen.
So how did you come to like understand your gifts and what you do today? What was your opening, your awakening? How did it start?
I would say my awakening was her dying. When she started getting sick, I was like about 18, and I was going through this like, oh, I see that her body's dying, but her spirit's still the same. And then when she passed, I was having dreams of her telling me stuff about the family, and they were like, how do you know these things? And I was like, I don't know. I thought I was helping everyone. I was calling them like this is what, you know, they were like, yeah, okay. You know, they were not receptive at all. I was like, isn't it great? Like, you know, no, it's not great. We don't know how you know that. That's weird. So they kind of pushed it away. So I met somebody in LA here, got in a relationship with him. His mom was into psychics and stuff, and I never met anybody like that. So she kind of helped. So I started to kind of practice on her because her daughter passed. So I practiced on her. But the real opening is I was working at Starbucks on Ventura, Laurel Canyon. It was the second Starbucks to ever open in LA.
I know that one very
remember
well.
that one? Yeah. We opened it. We're the OGs back when it was like 5 drinks. That was it. And the place to be seen because everybody, you know, all the writers used to go there. Anyway, I decided to test it out on someone who I heard his father passed, but I didn't know him. He was like a brand new employee. And I said, well, he's perfect because we're not friends. I don't know him. He even didn't like me. He like everyone, I was really angry. Okay. I was angry in my 20s. I had a lot of pain I went through.
Yeah.
So I was pissed off at the world. So Starbucks, in the 90s when it was really hot and all the celebrities were there and the PAs and stuff giving us attitude was not helping probably. But yeah, so I just went up to him on a break and said, you can just tell me to, screw off and it's fine. And I described his father and he was like, yeah, that's him. And he was all in. He was like, yeah, that's totally what he looks like. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's great. So I smoked at the time and I was like, what's happening? It was like a scene. I'm like, what's happening to me? And he was all like way too receptive. I was like, why didn't he tell me no? Like I wanted him. And I said, all right, what's happening? And I heard this man say, you've been picked, you've been tapped. This is your gift. Honor it. Do not get an ego and all these rules.
Wait, so you just heard a man's voice saying
like
this
telepathically. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I said it felt like a movie because I was like, how am I
like
doing
in this moment?
Yeah, in this
Starbucks
moment.
outside smoking.
In my car, in the parking lot, smoking a cigarette. And then I went back in and he's like making drinks. He's like, what else? What else? And I was like, well, I keep hearing that he's very gentle. He's a gentle man. And I was like, Mel, that's kind of like typical when people die. You kind of angelic. You make them angelic and stuff.
Yeah.
So I said, maybe that doesn't mean anything. And he's like, wait a minute. On his tombstone, we wrote, here lies a gentle man. And I was like,
just got chills.
oh, well, that's awesome. I'll be right back. Because I was still on break and I was like, how's this happening? And I was freaking out. He was very excited.
Yeah.
And then he let me practice on him. And then he told his mom. And I was like, oh my God, you told your mom. She's going to think I'm a weirdo. And, he was like, it happened to be, and I still know him. I still know him to this day.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's when I was like, okay, there's something to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went around telling people stuff and not everybody was as receptive. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I said, I'm just going to shut it down. For 12 years, I shut it down. I just ignored it. I still see stuff, but I just pretend I didn't.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm normal. How's the weather? And I just didn't want to deal with it. So one day I was in a terrible relationship that will turn that intuition back on. And I said, I got to get out of this situation. I started following my gut again, and everything started clicking back into life. And for me, I moved back to LA because I moved out of LA for a while. Moved back to LA because I reunited with that same guy, the same guy who introduced me to his mom.
Yes.
It was him. I was on the phone with him. I was living in New York, and his friend died while I was on the phone. I'm not kidding. He's like, I just found out my friend died. And I was like, that's when you start to go, am I the angel of death? What is happening? This is not cool. You know what I mean? So I said to him, okay, do you want me to do that thing I used to do? And that's just what I used to call it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, could you please? And I talked to his friend and I said, okay, I guess I'm back in this. This is never going to go away. So when I went back to LA, I finally kind of went through my own little ritual of this is me. And I started to hone it, but I learned everything from people on the other side. I didn't want any physical teachers because I kept hearing that realm say, everyone's full of ego. They'll lead you down following them. I was way too eager. I was open and, and they're like, that won't be good. So we'll teach you.
Oh, wow. So you're able to communicate that closely with the other side where you just have voices coming in and telling you.
It's not really voices. I don't want people to get listen, I have family that's in psychology. I know the difference. Okay. It's not that. It's just, it's hard to explain. There are things, people, they're called master teachers, mm-hmm. kind of these teachers, kind of if you look at superheroes, there's people who've been around for a long time, and I could see them and hear them when I would do this certain meditation, and I just kind of had them guide me. Believe me, I believe in confirmation is very important, because if you don't get confirmation and you're not grounded, then you don't know, is this just you making it up?
Totally.
So I would, test it all the time and hone it. So I've been honing it to sharpen it. It didn't start the way I read today isn't the way I started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That's so interesting. I mean, I have a lot of similarities to your story. So I've always been very interested in like intuitives, psychics, mediums, learning about it. I recently took a divine medium class with a psychic that I talked to like a year ago. I've been afraid to see psychics because I'm afraid that somebody will like implant some sort of limiting belief in me or like say something that is scary or inaccurate. And then I'm going to be like, oh, I believe that.
Yeah.
So I've been like careful about
it's a problem. There's a lot of scams. I kind of reveal the scams to people. The way I read, I don't believe the future is preordained. I don't believe in destiny and fate. I don't believe in past lives. I don't believe in a lot of stuff most psychics believe in. I believe in more that this is a science we don't understand. So I believe that every decision we make has a domino effect in how the future is unfolding. So what I do is someone's like, I want to go here. I go, this is the possible path. This is the path. I'm going to help guide you to the one I think you can miss a bunch of potholes and problems. And, obviously it's up to you. But this is the outcome if you go this way. This is the outcome if you go this way. So I remote view, which I don't know if you've heard of remote viewing.
have heard of remote viewing, but let's, for the audience, explain what remote viewing is for them.
So remote viewing is being able to see past time and space. So, Stranger Things is based on remote viewing, although it's exaggerated and wonderful, and there's a lot of telekinesis where she's throwing stuff around. But the idea of her being able to find a person, find a place, and walk around, that's what remote viewing is. So I can do that, and I do it in readings. I've been doing it on TikTok for fun and kind of tripping people out. So like you look and you can walk, and I can say, okay, if I walk through your door and this side, there's like a picture here, there's this there, here, this is on your bed, that kind of thing. In readings, what you're doing is I'm going, oh, you want to know what your boss said about you? Okay, I'll remote view and see what they were saying in the past, what they're saying now. And so it's moving past time and space, past, present, and future. The CIA was interested in, which is what Stranger Things is based on, for locating, people and places and stuff. It doesn't work on missing people, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I've come to my own conclusion. I think it's because you're interfering with time. You're interfering with the process. Remember I said there's a domino effect. So if something has already happened and that person maybe needs to find out and that's part of their path, you're like, quote, playing God. You're like, listen, I know I'm going to solve this. And you're going to change a whole sequence of events, how the person's mourning, how you can disrupt people's life. And that's my theory, but I one time came across the CIA article that talked about that they did discover that you can't find missing people with remote viewing. So I was like, oh, so I'm right. It doesn't work.
So there was that confirmation.
Yeah. So remote viewing. So the way I believe in the future is that it's constantly moving. It's more circular than linear. So I'm looking and going, okay, if you do this, then this will happen, then this will happen, and this will happen. I kind of do my whole everyday life that way. And with the medium side, a lot of mediums believe like, oh, you're bringing a spirit here and you're welcoming them here. You're not bringing anyone here. They're not that obsessed with this place. I don't know why everyone thinks they're so obsessed with here, but I don't say whoever's here. It took me a lot of years to learn how to do this, but someone says, I want to speak to my grandmother on my mother's side or a friend, because they already know that's going to happen because there's no time there. So people
they know
like,
everything all at once, basically.
It's kind of they don't know everything. That's the thing. They're just people who died.
Right. They're not like paying attention all the time.
It's kind of like the internet times a million. Like, people are like, how did they know this about me? I'm like, well, you posted it on every social media.
Yeah.
That would be like taking our technology 200 years ago, and then you're sitting here talking to me, and then someone's watching you on a screen, and they're like, how is that possible? And you're like, oh, it's moving through, like, they wouldn't be able to understand that.
Yeah.
And so the reason why we're scared of that world is because we don't really understand it.
I have
Yeah.
a question that
Yeah.
I would love to
Yes,
know.
Christiana, our producer.
Yes.
Yes.
If you're doing a reading on someone and you see something bad, like they're going to die or something, something tragic is going to happen, I feel like that's a big responsibility to have.
There are spiritual laws. And one of the spiritual laws is that you're not allowed to just walk around telling people that they're going to die. You're not allowed to see that. You can't see that. You're blocked from that. You can't. And people who claim that, it's iffy. It's kind of usually a scam because it sells. Fear sells. So if you tell someone something terrible is going to happen and then here I can come and fix it, it hooks you in, right? So what you do is you can see like to a certain limit, even in my own life, believe me, because I'm obsessed with the future. So I'm always like, and there's certain things, even for myself, I can't know all the things. Most of the things I'm not surprised about. I can see if someone's going to die, if they're dying, like someone comes to me and says, my family member is really sick and they're having a hard time and they're dying. Can you see? But even then, someone can go, oh, not today, and shift their energy into wanting to push to be here. Like the future can always shift. We have control over it. So when a psychic's like, I see this bad thing's going to happen, the only thing you could do is say, I have a bad feeling, let's say, about this flight. Like I have a client who she flies constantly, but she's terrified of flying. So she'll be on a plane going, is it going to be okay? And I'm like, first of all, you're asking me like, so someone's going to look at your phone one day and be like, this psychic told you. No, I can kind of feel it. You know what I mean? I can feel, yeah, it feels fine. I can tell this is just your fear. This is not real. So you can kind of get a feel like, I have a bad feeling if we go at 10 o'clock, let's go back a time. But someone can't just walk around telling people, oh, this horrible thing's going to happen, at this time, at this date. And it's kind of dark to go there. Mm-hmm. And then there's also scams. There's a lot of scams in that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of more like, oh, maybe watch your diet or something. If you're like sensing something is off with someone physically
physically isn't, not everybody can see stuff physically. I can scan and see people. I don't advertise it. Mm-hmm. I can see it, but I'm not predicting. I'm like, this is what I see in your body. A lot of times people want to know that because they want to check, like, is their doctor telling them the right thing? They're kind of nervous. But I always say I'm not diagnosing. Go to a doctor. I believe in medical science. Go get it checked out. But I can say to someone like, listen, I don't feel like you getting involved with this person's going to be good. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not a good situation. They're coming from this kind of place. You might want to steer away from it, or you may not want to sign this contract right now. But it's not like, this is why the future can shift. You make a different decision, you handle it a little different, and the dominoes fall a different way. Mm-hmm. This whole idea where people do the whole like, this, yes, no, this will happen, no, it won't, is not how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no concrete yes or no. Everything's nuanced. And
it's not nuanced. It's hard to, the future is happening. Right? Mm-hmm. You walk out your door, you turn left, you're already starting the dominoes, right? But if I'm like, I think we should turn around, then we've changed it. Mm-hmm. And a whole different sequence of events happens.
Right.
You have the power of your own future. People want to believe, because it's easier to believe, something else is controlling it.
So free will is real. And this is what who your masters, like how do you refer to them? It's master teacher.
I don't want people to get the
yeah, masters is the wrong word.
I'm not bowing to anybody. I see them as like professors. Like they
do you call them like the spirits, or how do you refer to the people?
I mean, at these days, it's just kind of being one. It's kind of like how to explain it? It's like Google, mm-hmm. right? If you Google something, right, there's a million people who have ideas of things and what it should be, and you're going to be more connected to one particular person, and you like the way they talk, and you like the way they teach something. Does that mean another one is wrong? No. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of collective. So there's a collective conscious in that realm, and it works more in a collective way. And when people talk about guides and angels and all this, they're separating themselves because we live separate here. We're obsessed with being different from each other, no matter what people say.
Yeah.
We are obsessed with where we live, what car we drive, what ethnicity we are, what clothes we wear. We are very obsessed of how different we are from each other. In that realm, it's a collective understanding.
That makes
sense.
sense.
And that's kind of the raw version of that is the internet. It's like a barbaric version of it. We're starting to see it. And that's why a lot of people are threatened by it, because now we can all go, collectively, we decided this person sucks. We're not listening to them anymore, right? Because everyone kind of gets the same vibe or something. And now we're able to talk to each other in a very fast-paced way. Well, that's what telepathic talking is with that realm.
Okay. I get that. So when I first got sober 6 years ago, I had a head injury and I quit drinking. I started hearing a man's voice. Actually, I started hearing the voice before I got sober.
Okay.
I heard a man say to me one morning when I was really hungover and I was throwing up in my bathroom and like feeling like I was maybe going to die. A man said, "You won't believe what happens in your life when you get sober." I heard it clear as anything, just crystal clear. Even like thinking about it, it scared me at the time because I was like, well, I'm psychotic also. That's definitely what this is.
Yeah,
also, like, who is this guy telling me I need to get sober? Screw you.
Yeah, no one dialed you up. Yeah.
No one asked. Then I did get sober, and then I felt this presence so strong with me. I almost want to cry thinking about it. For the first 6 months, I heard him speak to me several times. Like he calmed me down when I was really upset, when I was like going through this incredibly hard time. And it felt like I sort of had an opening then to whatever other energies and other realms. And I started seeing things and hearing things regularly, but nothing as intense as like that voice. I will never forget that man's voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm always like, who is he? I asked him one day what his name was, and he told me JC. And I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, you expect me to believe you're Jesus Christ?
Yeah. That's usually like kind of they'll have you ever seen the movie Contact? Did you ever see the movie?
No.
You seen the movie Contact? It was the best movie.
I'm going to watch it tonight.
When I saw that movie, I was like, someone gets it. Because she goes and she meets her father, but they say, I'm not your father. I'm coming in the image you understand. That is how they work.
Okay.
Right? And I do believe alien-ish is like angels aren't human. They're, it's an alien. They're alien to this world.
Yeah.
There's some people who die and they're very much, but not everyone who dies wants to kind of deal with this world. I mean, helping people in this world. But the way that other realm works is that's how it is. They can just create things like in a digital, like we're learning how we're seeing it right now, like in a digital form. They think of it and it,
Yeah.
And in that movie, they're like, oh, we saw that you love this place. So we made everything look like this place. So you're comfortable.
Right.
So they'll use it like, oh, you're into wizards? Okay, I'm Harry Potter. Here you are. I'm your guide. You know what I mean? And they're like, are you going to listen now? That person's really stupid. Stop messing with them. Right?
Yeah.
They're like, I saw Harry Potter came to me. And I'm like,
do you want to talk about your dream?
I will keep it really quick, but just 2 nights ago I called Holly, but I had a very, very real dream that David Bowie I know this sounds crazy. I didn't even tell my husband for a couple days because I thought he might think I was crazy, but I had a very real dream. And David Bowie came to me and he basically was telling me how much he loved me. Just like, you are so loved. And it was David Bowie. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
You're like, thanks, David Bowie.
It was 70s Bowie, Berlin-esque,
Yeah.
orange hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's who you understand. Like,
Yeah, it must be.
or someone you would listen to.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're desperate to kind of we are terrified of that place. We make it all about fear and horror. And so we've blocked it out. They can hear and see us fine. A medium's job isn't to convey any messages to them.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever a medium's trying to act like, I am here to, No, our job is just to kind of help you hear that world. They can see and hear you fine today, any given day, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be like, like there's another great movie, What Dreams May Come, where they show that, where when he goes to that realm, with Robin Williams, he sees what he thinks is people he knows, and they're like, it's the opposite. He's like, I don't know these people, but I thought I'd see the people I know. And then later he realized all the whole time it was the people he knew. They're like, you wouldn't have listened to us. You wouldn't have listened to us, but you'll listen to this beautiful lady and you'll listen to this cool guy, that's your friend,
So if the other realm or the collective or whatever you want to refer to it as is listening and can hear us, is that like how prayers work? Like are they able to help us?
They are able to help to a certain extent. Like I said, when people die, you don't become all knowing. It's like a whole city there. It's like a whole city. It's a whole world. It's a different world. They can kind of like sending a text or a DM, and that's what signs are and things like this, and kind of influence you telepathically.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden you're like, why don't I feel like I want to go here? Why do I feel weird about this place? Why do I feel weird about this person?
Mm-hmm.
So they can do a telepathic like impression, like, trying to get your attention or throw you a sign to even back that up. Like, and that's where bird signs and butterflies and all that come from, because they're on the same frequency. So they're just energy. So they're a frequency. So they go, hey, Mr. Bird, she's finally listening. Can you fly by? So she can know I'm here. And the frequency, sure. And
so we can ask for signs. I mean, every time I ask for a sign, I get it. I always get it.
Yeah.
I don't.
You don't?
I ask for signs and I don't think I get it. Not at the moment. I'm always surprised that you get it at the moment.
No, I don't get it at the moment. I get it later.
Yeah, you're not.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not like instant. I'm not like, show me a butterfly, and then a butterfly comes right at that second in my house. Like, I'm like, okay, show me. One time I asked for a Dalmatian. I was like, show me a Dalmatian, because it seemed random. And then later that day, a Dalmatian ran up to me. And I'll be like, when something really good is going to happen, show me a salamander. And I will see the word salamander, or I'll see a picture of a salamander like a week later or a month later. And I'll be like, something good is going to happen. And then it'll happen. So I really, I feel like once you start working with them and opening up, it's
true. They don't give signs in the moment, because you have to realize here we're very much in our head. So let's say you said, give me a sign. And I've seen this happen where I'm doing readings for somebody, or I'm in a situation and the light starts flickering and then people are like, well, that's weird. And I'm like, but I'm not sure still. And I'm like, all right, well,
that's not good enough.
And I think it's because they're your mind. So they don't do it in the moment. They'll do it later when you're not expecting it, because it's more impactful. You're like, oh, that's so crazy. That's weird that I saw that. Oftentimes people miss signs because they're subtle. And it's cool that you're doing it that way. Most people that wouldn't work, and I wouldn't recommend it, maybe because you're tuning into it. So that's cool. But most people, that would be harder for them. If you just leave it random, you'll actually get even more out of it, because you'll have like cooler, bigger things happen. Like the song comes on. They love to use music, and music's a great way because it's like lyrics and it makes you emotional, and it's like they're talking to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I had that coming here. I was thinking about stuff, and then the song came on, and it was like literally what I'm thinking about. And I'm going, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So lyrics, I have certain songs that are my family that I know it's them, because, come on like in a elevator like version that's like random. So it's usually going to happen when you're not expecting it on purpose.
There's a Social Distortion song that plays every time that Dominic comes in someone that's passed away. It happens.
Wow. Yeah.
So time check is 1:30. I don't know how long a reading takes.
Oh yeah, can we do a reading?
Sure.
So we have 15 minutes.
Yeah, I can do as fast or.
Well, let's just get into it. How do you like to start?
So
if I were just a typical client.
Yeah. How it would start is I would say to you that I do 2 types of readings: an intuitive reading, which is you asking me specific questions about things that I can look and tell you the answers to how I see things unfolding. A medium reading, which is connecting to someone who's passed on, and you would let me know who that person is by your relationship to them rather than the name and the backstory, because I like that to come out in the reading.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, so everybody listening, I do not mix the readings together on my private readings, but if you want me to do one or the other, but I will say sometimes people get, I read for real. So
Yeah.
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 And then you know what I mean? So, it's up to you. You can choose which one or how you would want to do it.
Okay. Let's do. I'm scared.
Do whatever you're more scared of, please.
I guess I'm more scared of like an intuitive reading.
Okay.
But like, let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
I'm
don't be
just trying to
scared.
think of what question I could ask specifically.
Do you have something specific you want to say, or do you want me to just tell you how I see you?
Yeah. Let's hear how I would love that.
Okay. Yeah, because you're like, your whole energy like went.
I just got so nervous.
Don't be nervous. Like I said, I don't read. This isn't, don't worry.
Okay.
I got you. Okay.
Thank you.
So I like to this is how I used to read a lot more pre-pandemic. And then I had to people were like, help.
Mhm.
So I kind of start getting faster to the points, but I like to kind of also do this type of thing where I'm going to look at how I see you, how you tick before the world got to you, your true self.
Mhm.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, ready?
Yeah.
All right. I kind of look off like in a screen. So
Yep.
I won't do it too long. All right. So I feel like you're, when I see you, the way you walk through the world, it is like you walk through the world very tentative and careful and very guarded, but it's also with this wonderment. So it's like the 2 sides of you. One side of you is very I'm not so sure about all these things and all these people and this world. This world does sometimes feel a little harsh because you're more sensitive than you let people see. So you are good at kind of deterring that away so people don't see that side of you, that hypersensitive side. That's the kind of childlike wonderment that you have where you're very interested in everything and everyone, but it's very guarded at the same time. So it must be really hard because you want to dive in, you want to be a part of so much, but you also want to keep everything at a distance. I feel like what your gift is not letting people know that.
Mhm.
Like you're really good. I can see it pretty right away, but I think most people just see the charm,
Mhm.
because you have a lot of charm about you. And I feel like your charm kind of lets you float through certain situations pretty well and around people. Like you can kind of hang out with someone and have a beer and talk shit with them. And then you can have the nice glass of wine at a very fancy, elegant place. And so you you're good at allowing yourself to flow in between. I feel like it's probably hard because a lot of people don't see past that. And they don't see this part of you that really, really has that runs a lot deeper than the pull's a lot deeper in you. I feel like you're scared even to sometimes dive into that side of you. So that's a little.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Yeah.
I feel that at this time in your path, though, it is time to dive into the pool. You can't just keep, surfing, on the doing surfing on the waters. I feel like at this point, it may feel like you're having a little bit of a block almost. Why is it hard for me to really pop open all the things I really want to pop open, really let things fly or let yourself fly and the things you want to do fly. And I feel like it's because you're not letting people see the deeper, darker even side,
Mm.
because you're afraid of that dark side. We all have the dark side. It doesn't mean evil, doesn't mean bad. It's just the side of us that, kind of doesn't mind the darker side of things. Like
Mhm.
I feel like you kind of see that side. That's why I feel like you walk around like tentative, because you're like, I see that, I see you, but you're not really scared of it.
Yeah.
You kind of can walk right into it and you probably charm, that person or that situation, but not, I think you're afraid if you allow that part of you to happen, you're going to like take it back with you, or it's going to change you or something like that.
Yeah. Or that I'll be like judged for it.
Right.
Yeah. That society won't be able to handle it. I mean, it's interesting you say all of that, because it's what I'm actively working on right now in therapy.
Yeah.
Because I'm writing a book and
Oh, cool.
memoir, and it's like so much of it is like so dark. I'm struggling with how to like love that side of myself and accept it, and the things I've seen and been through, or this part of me that I feel is maybe like bad.
But some people are able to what I call walk in the line, which is there's the dark and the light, and they're comfortable in it. So it's almost kind of, imagine if you're walking down a path and there's a wall of dark and there's a wall of light. And you can even look at the dark side and see people get lost in there and pull them out and throw them into the light and keep walking. That's kind of how you are. But no one would know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you let people see that, they would see all the interesting parts of you.
Yeah.
So you should let that all out and let it fly in the book for
Yeah.
sure. Because there's a lot of people who understand that. It's more true to who you are. It's like, own it. It's kind of like the part of you that's like, you know what, truthfully, it doesn't freak me out. Like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. People do things. I feel like you see the world that way. Like someone could be like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm part of the PTA or whatever. You can tell my mom because I said PTA. But I'm not in the PTA. But but I'm saying like, and you're like, clock.
Yeah.
I see all the dark parts in that person. And you're probably like, well, why don't I just see the nice things? Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I doing that? And I feel like it's just because sometimes it's fine with you and sometimes it's not fine with you. So sometimes you're okay with it. Sometimes you're not okay with it. And it can be hard to see those parts. And maybe that's why a part of you has been interested in the whole psychic thing, because it's a bit of a psychic-y thing to do.
Yeah.
But, honestly, if you embrace it, it actually helps you in life.
What do you think is like how can I become more comfortable with like, I mean, I feel like I let myself be very seen in my writing on my Substack and everything, but yeah, there's sometimes it scares me a lot what I put in the world, because it does feel like too much or too dark or too fucked up, or
yeah,
and even just things that have happened to me that I had no control over.
I feel like the one thing I've learned reading for so long is everybody is covering something. I mean, not everyone's covering something. Everyone isn't really paying that much attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really struggling with themselves. And then when somebody reveals things about themselves, it helps them to mirror themselves. They're not even thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sharing all these things, they're like, me.
Yeah.
That's like what happened to me. And you are being the voice for them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that is a burden, but I do feel that's your calling.
Yeah.
Right. So if you kind of go, listen, I'll do it. And then the person's like, great, because I'm not writing a book about all the things I did, but I love that she did. So I can like feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember that they're not even caring about what's going on with you. So don't get lost in that. Because it's easy to people like, you're so great. You did this. They're talking about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not about me. Ultimately, I feel like, this is my calling. This is how I can help the most amount.
Mm-hmm. So that's how you can get
amount.
comfortable with it, is that you realize it's like an art. It's like the artists do this. They paint something, filmmakers do this, singers do this. They're showing us ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your way of doing your art. And if you can put it out there and let it go, and then reserve the small group of people you have to know your real, true, all the parts of you. You don't have to bleed everything out.
Yeah.
You don't have to do all of. People don't have a right to have all pieces of you.
Yeah.
That part of you that's like I'm not sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the boundary.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I wrote enough. I've talked about enough. You don't have to know all the things, and then you'll feel more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like it's your way of realizing, if you start to realize that people aren't like really looking at you, for one, other people wear masks very well and other people don't. And you're kind of helping both. You're helping the people who wear the mask really well and no one knows. And they're like secretly like, that's me. And then you're helping. And you're like, everyone thought I was just baking cookies today. But little did they know, like, you know what I mean? And then you're helping the people that are like, oh my God, it's me. And they're just like, so I feel like the more you realize that, then you'll go, oh, okay, I get it. It's just, this is my art.
That's really helpful. Yeah. I love that. That's very, particularly this week. It's interesting. You tapped right into what I've been like struggling with this week in particular. So amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have a question you could think of? Only because she's willing to answer.
Yeah. Let's see. A question. So I mean, I would like my book to help as many people as possible. Like, is there sort of a path that I can take to make this dream of mine be a huge success for me, for the world, for everyone?
Yeah. I feel that the parts of you, if you take the path of just go all the way in, that's what I was saying earlier, like go all the way into the pool, meaning like the parts of you that you have from your past, your family, because I know I listened to a little bit of your podcast and you were talking to someone about your dad and what he did. I feel like I could feel that there's a part of you that's afraid to utilize all those things.
Yep.
Put it all in, like utilize all of it. I feel like if you go down this path, like completely like transparent, but then you say, I still have a piece of me over here, but not holding back and allowing yourself to just like show people the deeper, darker sides of you, this will succeed. Mm-hmm. But if you try to be too perfectionist about it, let the edges be there. Let the rawness be there.
Yeah.
Let the imperfections be there.
Okay.
But if you try to be too perfect about it, in today's world especially, because this is where we're moving to in this world, in entertainment, in media, in conversation, people want to like they like the raw.
Yeah. Great.
So if you're just like truly being yourself and being raw, like even if you have a day and you post, you're like, I have nothing to say, everybody, bye. Like, wow, I love her. That's how I feel sometimes. That's how that will succeed.
Yeah.
But if you try to make it so like those days are over, nobody wants that anymore.
Anything, too curated,
too
or
curated,
too cool,
too perfect, too like too formula.
Yeah.
Just yeah. If you go down that path and it doesn't look like you're trying to be that way.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised how many people are going to absolutely understand. Even though you had a whole different story, they get it. And if you you're a beautiful woman, you live in LA, and it's like if she can be raw and be that way and have gone through stuff, then I guess I have a chance. Mm-hmm. That's what people are going to think.
Good.
So if you got to go raw.
Like it.
All right, I'm going to go all the way.
We're at 142. I'd like you to.
Yeah, so let's talk about where we can find you, where the audience can find you, how we can all get sessions with you. I actually bought my friend Brooke a birthday reading with you. I think it's tomorrow maybe. So
is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so give us all your information, please.
I am Adela Lavine on all the socials. So Adela Lavine on Instagram, TikTok. My YouTube is I mostly do lives on there, but is the House Medium, and I have a book called Peering into the Inner Room on Amazon. You can also find the House Medium on all the platforms that do podcasts, type of thing. If you would like to book a session, it's AdelaLavine.com. Pretty easy. If you put in Adela Lavine, ADELA, Lavine, everything will come up.
I'm also going to link everything in the show notes. So all of your links I will include. So it'll be really accessible, really easy. And you are beautiful. And I'm so grateful for you
Thank you
to
so
come.
much.
And I'm so happy to meet you. It's an honor. It's a privilege. Thank you for reading for me.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. And I can't wait to see more of you, and we'll keep the conversation going.
Yes, thank you for having me so much. I love the way you found me. I guess YouTube does work sometimes.
It does. Yes. Oh, my brother's going to be so excited too.
That's so cool. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank
Shout
you.
out Nicholas. Thank you, Adela.
Thank you.
I just wanna get effed up and dance.
Thanks for listening to the HollyWould Podcast. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Holly M. Solem and at HollyWould.substack.com. HollyWould.substack.com. The HollyWould Podcast is filmed in Los Angeles, California, and produced by Cristiana Ladki-Williams. We'll be back next month with a brand new one for you. Please follow, like, download, share, and don't forget to leave a review.
Saying my name, let me tell you, I don't